When Sagittarius gets angry, nothing can stop a war, and the result may be death. There's something most people don't dare to admit, that Sagittarius, the zodiac sign of light, of knowledge, and of freedom, when angry, becomes the embodiment of a cosmic storm. It's not impulsive rage, not a hopeless scream, but a sacred call from the deepest level of truth that's been suffocated. Have you ever witnessed a gentle person, always smiling, always forgiving, suddenly transform into a cold, relentless warrior? In that moment, it is no longer human anger, but a divine signal from the universe stepping in to restore order. And Sagittarius is the chosen instrument. In the next 30 minutes, I will take you deep into the intense and burning inner world of Sagittarius when they are pushed to the edge. Where kindness is trampled, truth is distorted, and their soul is forced to rebel. This is not just an astrological story. This is a spiritual journey of a zodiac sign guided by Jupiter, the planet of truth, divine law, and soul expansion. Hold tight, because what you're about to hear may remind you of a past confrontation in your life. With a Sagittarius, or perhaps with a part of yourself. If your heart is stirring, leave a comment saying, "I'm ready to face the sacred truth of Sagittarius." That comment is not just a statement. It's a key that unlocks the stream of energy awaiting you. And if you feel what is about to be shared holds meaning, like and share this video with those seeking light. Because who knows, maybe you will be the one planting a seed of hope for someone lost in the night. Are you ready? Because once Sagittarius is angry, there's no turning back. And sometimes, the consequence isn't silence, but death, of a relationship, of a belief, or of the very darkness inside you that once rejected the light. You know, I've witnessed a Sagittarius get angry. It's not a scene you easily forget. It's not loud, not argumentative, no foul words or childish tantrums. On the contrary, it's eerily silent. A terrifying quiet in which you can feel their soul burning. To others, it may seem like they simply walk away. But to me, someone who has studied astrology for more than half a century, I saw something clearly. Sagittarius doesn't retreat, they end it. When a Sagittarius turns their back, it's not out of anger. It's a termination, absolute and irreversible. Jupiter, the guardian deity of Sagittarius, represents more than expansion. He is also the gatekeeper of truth. In the Sagittarius soul, truth is not an option. It's a moral standard. A sacred command. And when someone, or something, betrays that truth, the anger of Sagittarius ceases to be personal. It becomes the beginning of a purification. A war not waged to win, but to liberate. Liberation from lies, from toxic bonds, from souls that no longer honor the light. I still remember the eyes of that Sagittarius, my old friend. When he discovered the truth twisted behind a string of false promises from someone he trusted. He didn't erupt. He didn't throw things. He didn't scream. He just looked, deeply. As if he could see through the other person's soul. And then, he walked away. Without a word of goodbye. Without a single glance back. From that moment, I understood, the anger of Sagittarius doesn't erupt like fire. It simmers, burns slowly, but once ignited, it consumes everything. Have you ever felt that way? The feeling of trying your best, forgiving, stepping back, holding on, only to end up being the one most deeply hurt? If you are Sagittarius, or carry Sagittarius energy, then I believe you know it well. Because your soul was not born to endure the lesser things. You were not made to live in darkness. You carry a greater mission, to guide the way, to inspire, to awaken the truth in those who've forgotten who they are. When you get angry, it's not just emotion. It's a spiritual alarm. A message from the universe that something has gone off track. And you, with your expansive heart and deep intuition, sensed it before anyone else. Don't blame yourself for feeling anger. Don't torture yourself for the ending. Sometimes, you are the one chosen to end a broken cycle. Not everyone has the courage to do that. But Sagittarius does. I know, for many people, anger means losing control. But the anger of Sagittarius is the pinnacle of control. It is when they decide not to let their soul be tainted by what is unworthy. And if you've ever experienced that kind of ending from a Sagittarius, know this, it is a sacred gift you were given. Because only when your darkness is called by name, do you get the chance to truly see the light. I've drawn a deep lesson from this, that anger, when it comes from an awakened soul, is no longer a negative emotion. It is a tool of purification. A wake-up call. A necessary shock to awaken what has long been dormant. Sagittarius doesn't destroy, they strip away. They don't harm, they make you face what you've been avoiding. And if today you're listening to this, if your heart is trembling with every word, perhaps this is a sign the universe is sending you. Maybe you are the one who needs to walk through an ending. A cycle that has run its course. A relationship that no longer holds truth. An environment that has made you smaller, instead of expanding your soul. Be honest with yourself. Don't be afraid. Because behind every ending lies the opportunity for rebirth. Just like how Sagittarius always finds a new path on the horizon. No matter how wounded they may be. I want you to remember this, deeply. That when a Sagittarius gets angry, they don't lose themselves. On the contrary, they return to who they truly are. And in that return, they are willing to lose everything, just to protect what is non-negotiable, the truth. If you are living in pretense, you won't be able to keep them. But if you are honest enough, brave enough to look back, humble enough to learn from that anger, you may step into your own journey of transformation. And you know what? The miracle is, Sagittarius always forgives. Not because you deserve it, but because they don't carry resentment. Yet after that forgiveness, you will never be the same person. Because you have come into contact with a sacred fire. One that either burns you down or turns you into the strongest version of yourself. I know, maybe you're shedding tears right now. Maybe you're remembering someone, a Sagittarius who walked away from your life and you never understood why. Or maybe, you are the one learning how to walk away, even though your heart is breaking. Even though you still love, still care, still hope. But if your heart knows the truth no longer lives there, then be brave. Keep moving. And leave behind what no longer reflects the divine light within you. If you see yourself in these words, if you feel as though the universe is speaking directly to you through every sound, every word, then leave a comment. I choose to live in the truth and light of Sagittarius. Share this recording with those you believe need to hear it. Because who knows, one message you send today may be the only ray of light left in the soul of someone who has lost their way. We cannot control who enters our lives. But we can choose how we walk away at the right time. In the right way, and with the right respect for our own soul. Are you a Sagittarius? Are you in love with a Sagittarius? Or perhaps you simply carry the energy of light, truth, and courage within you? Whoever you are, I believe you are not here by coincidence. The universe arranges everything. And today, the lesson you need to hear is this: sometimes, anger is also a form of love. A love that has endured too long, sacrificed too much, and finally must set itself free in order to survive. The consequence of Sagittarius's anger does not lie in what they say, but in what they never say again. Not in the scream, but in the absence. Not in retaliation, but in the quiet disappearance. They don't have to do much to cause a shift. Because their leaving alone is a message. When a Sagittarius withdraws their soul from a connection, it doesn't just chill the relationship, it forces the other person to face themselves. No one left to blame. No more excuses. No more light to cling to. That is the moment their soul must stare into the dark corners that have been hidden for too long. And right there, the pain begins. But also right there, the seed for rebirth is planted. Do you know that feeling? When you wake up after a long night and the light is gone. When you look around and realize the one who once loved you deeply is no longer there. Sagittarius doesn't do this to punish. They do it because their soul can no longer exist in an environment that no longer reflects truth. When their energy is withdrawn, it's the universe making a sacred decision. If you don't honor the light, you cannot keep it. And the cold that follows is a consequence no one can save you from. You must walk through it yourself. Alone. In silence. In regret. In the slow process of your heart learning how to resurrect, cell by cell. I've been there. Not as a Sagittarius, but as someone who was once lit up, loved, and then left behind. I once thought I was fine. Thought they were just angry for a while. Thought they would come back. But day by day, the silence became louder than any words. And then, I had to face the truth. I had lost something sacred. Not a person, but the opportunity to live in the energy of truth. And I understood, it wasn't punishment. It was a necessary lesson. Not to condemn me, but to make me see myself clearly, without anyone else's lens. Was it painful? Yes. But it was also what saved my soul. That symbolic death was the starting point of the rebirth I didn't know I needed. The anger of Sagittarius, if you are awake enough to observe it closely, always carries a message. That something has gone too far. That a shadow needs to be illuminated. That a cycle needs to be ended so the soul can step into a new level. And when you're brave enough to walk through that pain without resistance, without blaming, without running, the universe begins to work. Dreams return. Old questions find answers. Your intuition grows stronger. You begin to know who you are, who you can no longer be, and what truly deserves to be kept. That is the rebirth phase. Not loud. Not celebratory. But step by step, breath by breath, you are returning to a purer, clearer, stronger version of yourself. I once read an ancient manuscript from the Hermetic school of astrology, which said, when the soul of Jupiter withdraws from a connection, the truth begins to reveal itself on its own. And that is precisely the effect Sagittarius brings. When they retreat, everything begins to rearrange. Illusions fall apart. Lies lose their grip. And what remains is raw reality. But it is from that rawness that truth is rebuilt. No longer from fear. No longer from condition. But from awakening. If you are on that journey, be steadfast. Accept that you were once wrong. Cry, if you must. Regret it, but don't stop there. Keep walking. Let that loss become the fire that forges your new self. Don't try to pull Sagittarius back, because when they leave, they don't need to witness your transformation. They only need to know that you've lived up to the light they once believed could exist within you. And if you truly are reborn, if you rise to a new frequency, then maybe, one day, the universe will let your paths cross again, not as before, but as two souls who have grown and matured. And if you are a Sagittarius, someone who once got angry, once walked away, once was misunderstood for choosing yourself, then know this, the universe is incredibly proud of you. You are not weak for having felt pain. You are strong for not destroying. You are brave for not responding with violence, but by choosing to protect your spiritual integrity. Let yourself heal. Go on new journeys. Keep teaching, keep writing, keep igniting others. This world needs you. Not in the form of someone always smiling on the outside, but in the form of a warrior of light, one who has fallen, who has raged, Who has lost, and yet rises again to choose love once more, from a soul that has been refined. You know, sometimes, the greatest thing you can do is not to forgive others, but to forgive yourself. For giving too much, for trusting too long, and for holding on to something that no longer fits you. When you forgive yourself, you close the door to the past. And in that very moment, a new door opens. A new journey. New people. Souls that are truly in resonance with yours. And you'll no longer feel anger. Because you are no longer bound by expectation. You are free. Write this down, if your heart is responding to these words. I allow myself to be reborn. I no longer live in anger, but in the light of understanding. And if you've made it this far, share this recording with someone who needs to hear it. Don't keep the light just for yourself. Sagittarius never keeps the light only for themselves, and if you carry even a part of this zodiac within you, you understand that light only truly matters when it is shared. No one can stop a Sagittarius once they have decided to go to war. Because once their soul has chosen the path of action, no one, and nothing, can hold them back. The softness you once knew in them disappears. The smile that once warmed you turns cold as stone. And the heart that once forgave, once tried to save, is now silent, as though it has passed through a wind from the abyss. Because what you need to understand is this: when Sagittarius gets angry, it's not from impulsive emotion. It's from a soul-level decision, where the call from conscience, intuition, and spiritual responsibility has reached a point of no compromise. A decision sent down from the deepest part of themselves, where conscience, intuition, and truth converge to make a final judgment. Don't think you can convince a Sagittarius to change their mind with emotion, with promises, or with tears. When they still loved you, they gave you every chance. When they still believed in you, they carried your mistakes for you. But when they see that you no longer honor the truth, then no matter how deeply they loved you, they will draw their sword. Not to cut you, but to sever the cord that bound them to something toxic, distorted, and unworthy of truth. And what's terrifying is, they will do it in silence. Without an audience. Without justification. Without needing anyone to understand. I once saw a Sagittarius act that way. A middle-aged man, with soft, kind eyes. He lived simply, kindly, always helping others, always stepping back. But then, when the lies were exposed, when he realized that those he loved most had not only hidden something from him, but used his love to cover the truth, I watched him change. Not loudly. Not with fury. Just one morning, he got up earlier than usual, made a cup of coffee, sat by the window, and looked into the distance. In that moment, I saw something different in his eyes, not the look of a betrayed husband, but of a soul awakened. Knowing that staying in that space would be a betrayal of himself. And then, he stood up, packed his things, wrote a short note, and left. For good. No one could stop him. No one could change his mind. Because he was no longer the gentle man of yesterday. He was now a soul warrior, seeking the justice he knew he deserved. And I understood, he was Sagittarius. You see, Sagittarius doesn't hurt people when they go to war. They are just decisive. They simply stop enduring. They draw a clear line between light and shadow. Because to them, truth cannot be blurred. Righteousness cannot be diluted. Truth cannot be negotiated. If you're still standing in the in-between, still playing hide and seek with emotion, then I'm sorry. But you are no longer aligned with their frequency. And they will leave, not out of hate, but because they must stay loyal to their divine nature. Astrology calls this the momentum of Jupiter, the moment when Jupiter's directional energy bursts forth. When that happens, Sagittarius becomes a galloping horse across the plains of the soul. nothing can stop them. No words can hold them back. No tears can make them pause. Because by then, they have become the embodiment of a sacred vow. I must live in truth, or I am no longer truly alive. And I believe, there is nothing more noble than a soul that dares to choose truth, even if it means losing everything else. I do not share this to glorify blind-heartedness. I share this to say, in a world where everyone compromises, everyone hides, everyone fears being left behind, a Sagittarius who dares to say, enough, is the necessary presence to keep the balance of spiritual justice. They are not perfect. They too feel pain, inner conflict, and remorse. But once they go to war, they do not retreat. They do not look back. And if you stand for truth, they will protect you with their life. But if you betray the light, even if you are family, a lover, or blood, you will no longer have a place in their world. Let me ask you something. Are you trying to hold on to a Sagittarius who has already walked away? Are you clinging to old memories, hoping they will one day soften? If so, stop. Ask yourself, what in you made them withdraw? What in the relationship made them feel they couldn't go on? And more importantly, do you have the courage to face that answer? If you do, you stand at the threshold of maturity. If not, you will forever be left behind, not because they are cruel, but because you refuse to grow alongside truth. I do not write this to break your heart. I write to remind you, when a Sagittarius has decided to go to war, it is the final battle they need to liberate themselves. And if you still want them to come back, then you too must go to war with the darkness inside you. Prove it through action. Through transformation. Through truth. No one loves as purely as Sagittarius, but no one leaves as absolutely as they do. Because their love is not rooted in emotion. It is anchored in spiritual compatibility. And once that resonance is gone, you are no longer a home for their soul. Remember this, Sagittarius doesn't fight out of hatred. They fight to protect the light. And sometimes, that light is themselves. If you cannot hold it, step back with gratitude. If you still wish to walk beside them, step forward as a soul who has changed. And if you are a Sagittarius stepping into your final battle, I say this with deep reverence, you are not alone. The universe is with you. Souls of your frequency are with you. And most importantly, the strongest part of you is rising. If you feel you are in that chapter, write in the comments. I no longer compromise with darkness. I go to war to protect the truth. That is not just a declaration. It is a beginning. A signal to the universe that you are ready to become the most radiant version of yourself. And if you know someone who needs this message, share it. You might just awaken another Sagittarius warrior, still sleeping in their shadows. The consequence of Sagittarius's anger is not found in what they say, but in what they will never say again. Not in the shout, but in the absence. Not in retaliation, but in quiet disappearance. They don't need to do much to cause a shift. Because their leaving alone is a message. When a Sagittarius pulls their soul from a connection, it not only chills the relationship, it forces the other person to confront themselves. No more people to blame. No more excuses to hide behind. No more light to hold on to. That is the moment the other soul must face the shadow that has long been ignored. And it is exactly in that place that pain begins. But also in that place, the seed of rebirth is planted. Do you know that feeling? When you wake up after a long night, and the light is gone. When you look around and realize the one who once loved you deeply, is no longer there. Sagittarius doesn't do it to punish. They do it because their soul can no longer survive in an environment that no longer reflects truth. When their energy is withdrawn, it is the universe making a sacred decision. If you do not honor the light, you cannot keep it. And the cold that follows is a consequence no one can save you from. You must go through it. Alone. In silence. In regret. In the slow process by which every cell in your heart learns how to resurrect. I have been in that place. Not as a Sagittarius, but as someone they once illuminated, loved, and then left. I once thought I was fine. Thought they were just temporarily angry. Thought they would return. But day after day, the silence spoke louder than any words. And I had to face the truth, I had lost something sacred. Not just a person, but the chance to live in the energy of truth. And I understood, it was not punishment. It was a necessary lesson. Not to condemn me, but to help me see myself without anyone else's lens. Was it painful? Yes. But it was also what saved my soul. That symbolic death became the beginning of a rebirth I didn't know I needed. Sagittarius's anger, if you're awake enough to observe, always holds a message. That something has crossed the line. That a shadow needs to be brought to light. That a cycle must be closed for the soul to move into a new stage. And when you're brave enough to walk through that pain without resistance, without blaming, without fleeing, the universe begins to move. Dreams return. Old questions find answers. Your intuition sharpens. You begin to know who you are, who you can no longer be, and what is truly worth keeping. That is the rebirth phase. Not loud. Not dramatic. But breath by breath, you return to a purer, clearer, stronger version of yourself. I once read an ancient manuscript from the Hermetic astrological school that said, when the soul of Jupiter withdraws from a connection, the truth begins to reveal itself. And that is exactly the effect Sagittarius brings. When they withdraw, all things start to rearrange. Illusions collapse. Lies lose their grip. And what remains is bare reality. But from that rawness, truth is rebuilt. No longer from fear. No longer from conditions. But from awakening. If you are on that journey, stay strong. Admit you were once wrong. Cry, if you need to. Regret, but don't stay there. Keep moving forward. Let the loss become the fire that forges your next self. Don't try to pull Sagittarius back, because when they leave, they don't need to see you change. They only need to know that you lived in the light they once believed could live within you. And if you truly are reborn, if you rise to a new frequency, maybe one day, the universe will allow your paths to cross again, not as before, but as two souls who have evolved and are whole. If you are the Sagittarius who once got angry, once walked away, once was misunderstood for choosing yourself, then know this, the universe is incredibly proud of you. You are not weak for having felt pain. You are strong for not destroying. You are brave for not reacting with violence, but by protecting your sacred values. Allow yourself to heal. Take new journeys. Keep teaching, keep writing, keep lighting the fire. This world needs you. Not as someone who always smiles to cover pain, but as a warrior of light, who has fallen, burned, lost, but rises again and chooses to love, from a soul that has been refined. You know, sometimes the greatest thing you can do is not forgive others, but forgive yourself. Forgiving too much, trusting too long, and holding on to what no longer fits. When you forgive yourself, you close the door to the past. And at that exact moment, a new door opens. A new journey. New people. Souls that truly resonate. And you will no longer be angry. Because you are no longer bound by expectations. You are free. Write this down, if your heart is responding to these words. I allow myself to be reborn. I no longer live in anger, but in the light of understanding. And if you've made it this far, share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Don't keep the light to yourself. Sagittarius never keeps the light for themselves, and if you carry even a spark of this sign within you, you know that light only means something when it is shared. Astrology teaches that when Jupiter, the ruling planet of Sagittarius, completes a full cycle of compassion, the energy of forgiveness is activated. But you must understand, this is not surface-level forgiveness. It does not cover up wounds. It lays bare every fragment, every pain, every disappointment, and heals them slowly, through awareness, through light, and through inner maturity. Sagittarius does not forgive to reconnect. They don't necessarily want you back. Their forgiveness is not a ticket for return, it is a blessing for you to continue your own path. Free of attachment, free of resentment. Are you waiting for a Sagittarius to forgive you? If so, ask yourself, do you truly want their forgiveness? Or do you just want them to forget what you did? Because if you want them to forget, you are underestimating their soul. Sagittarius does not forget. They remember, they feel, they record every lesson in blood and tears. But they can still forgive if they sense that you have changed. That you truly understand what hurt them. And that you have walked through your own awakening, not to win them back, but so you never harm another soul again. Someone once said to me, "I don't understand, she forgave me, but she didn't come back." I simply smiled. Because he didn't understand, when a Sagittarius truly forgives, they don't need you to return to confirm it. Forgiveness, to them, is an independent act. They do it for inner peace, not to repair something that's already broken. And sometimes, you don't need to come back either. You just need to live in a way that honors the second chance life quietly gave you, through the compassion of the one you once hurt. I want you to know this, deeply. That when a Sagittarius forgives, they are using the light in their heart to close the door to the past. They don't need anyone to admire it. They just need to know, they are no longer holding on to darkness. And you, the one they once loved, now have a choice. Live worthy of that gift, or let it slip away once more, this time. For good. I have seen many rebirths take place after Sagittarius forgives. Those who once hurt them, if they are wise, begin their own healing journey. They write things they never dared to say. They cry for things they thought they had forgotten. They look at themselves with truly honest eyes. And little by little, they change. Not to get Sagittarius back, but to avoid losing themselves again. That is the miracle Sagittarius's forgiveness creates. No music in the background. No stage. Just a moment when a soul awakens in the dark, and realizes the light was always waiting. If you are in that journey, the journey of being forgiven, or learning to forgive, then you are living a meaningful human life. Forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is the act of strong souls. And if today you've been forgiven by a Sagittarius, write this down. I have been born a second time, not to relive the past, but to live fully in the present. Let this message be your vow to yourself, a witness to the transformation now beginning in your heart. And if you are a Sagittarius, one learning to let go, remember, forgiveness does not make you weak. It gives you freedom. And you deserve that. You deserve lightness. You deserve to go on, no longer carrying the shadows of what has been. Write this down. I forgive, because I choose light. That is the most sacred act a spiritual warrior can make. And you have just done it. None of us are perfect. But if we can learn to forgive and live more kindly after, then we are walking the right path. Because in the end, what the universe asks of us is not perfection, but sincerity in making things right. And Sagittarius, with a vast heart led by Jupiter, is the guide for that path. If you feel these words are touching something in you, share this recording with the person who once hurt you. or with the one you once hurt. Sometimes, just one gesture is enough for their soul to realize they can still begin again. They can still be born a second time. I have lived more than half my life to understand this. It is not anger that causes a soul to fall. It is when you choose to bury it, to stay silent in the face of wrong, to pretend you've forgotten what broke you. In all my years studying astrology, in all the stories of those who carry Sagittarius in their charts, I've seen one truth that never changes. Sagittarius is not just the sign of truth. They are the place where the soul begins to rise, every time deception reaches its peak. That rising is not always loud. Sometimes, it starts with a single tear falling in the dark. Sometimes, with a phone call that never gets answered. Sometimes, with the quiet disappearance of someone who used to be part of your everyday life. And sometimes, it comes from within. When you can no longer endure a world of wounds you've tried so hard to tolerate, just to please others. I used to believe that strength was silence. That maturity meant knowing when to yield. But life and Sagittarius taught me that sometimes, silence is no longer noble, it is a betrayal of the self. Sometimes, forgiveness doesn't save anyone, it only pushes you further from your truest self. And sometimes, walking away isn't because you no longer love, but because you can no longer continue loving with a heart that has been distorted. That is why, when Sagittarius rises after anger, it is not an act of revenge. It is the restoration of the soul. It is when they say, I choose myself. Even if I have to lose the world, I will keep the light in my heart. And I say this from the heart. I have witnessed that light. It is not blinding as people imagine. It is gentle, steady, but so powerful you cannot look away. Because once you see it, you can never live the same again. You will no longer want to deceive, to hide, or to run. You will want to live truthfully, fully, and responsibly, with others, and with yourself. Are you standing at the edge between an ending and a beginning? Do you feel like everything is falling apart? Trust is shattered, and no one truly understands the pain you're going through? If so, then I want you to know, this is not the end. It is a calling. It is the universe whispering in your ear. Wake up, don't live one more day in pretense. Walk toward truth. Even if it hurts, it is the only path to freedom. And if you are a Sagittarius, or carry the energy of this sign, listen to your soul. You no longer need to please anyone. You do not need to apologize for your integrity. You do not need to soften the truth so someone will accept you. You only need to keep walking with faith, with light, and with the silent promise your soul made before this life began. That you would not betray the light in your heart, no matter how much the world shakes. I have seen many Sagittarians return after devastating heartbreaks. Not to love the same person again, but to love themselves again. Not to fix what was broken, but to build something new. Something solid, steady, and truly reflective of their soul. That rising after anger is what makes them extraordinary. Because they don't let anger destroy them. They use it as a torch to light their way through the dark. To burn away lies. And to illuminate the path for themselves, and for those who follow. Do you know why Sagittarius is symbolized as half human, half horse, holding a bow? Because they do not live solely on earth. They are creatures of the in-between, where instinct and spirit meet. They fight not just with force, but with knowledge. They protect not just love, but truth. And when they let go, it is not defeat. It is how they make room for what is truly worthy to enter. I once asked a Sagittarius friend, do you regret walking away from someone you once loved so deeply? He smiled, not with bitterness or pain, but gently. He said, I don't regret that love. I only feel a quiet sorrow for the version of me that gave everything to it. But I know, I had to leave, to preserve that part of myself. And I fell silent. Because I knew, that was a soul who had truly grown. And you, if you're hearing these words, I believe you too are standing at the threshold of that rising. Whether you're the one who walked away or the one left behind. Whether you're the archer or the one struck by the arrow. Whether you're forgiving, being forgiven, or learning to let go. You still hold something sacred, your freedom. The freedom to choose kindness. The freedom to choose healing. The freedom to choose to live truthfully, wholly, and honestly. Write this down, as a vow to your soul. I choose to walk toward the light. I no longer live in pretense. I was born to live true to myself. And if this means something to you, if your heart stirs even a little, share this message. Not to impress, but because you never know who needs a ray of light. Who knows, one sentence you share today could be salvation for someone still lost in the dark. Let the light of Sagittarius, the light of truth, courage, and mature love, continue to burn within you. No matter who you are. No matter what you've been through. Because in the end, your soul doesn't need anyone else to forgive it. It only needs you to return. I do not write these words to hurt you. I write them to remind you, when a Sagittarius has decided to go to war, it is the last battle they need to set themselves free. And if you are on the other side, then take this as a precious opportunity for your own rebirth, not for anyone else, but for you.